So I've just sat here for 45 minutes making a video on my phone, which I've got rigged up over there, and I'm speaking to my camcorder. Because in recent times I've been making videos on my phone, and the actual phone, I can see it's got the timer going, it's recording, and yet when I finish recording there is no video there. And so what can I say about that? I thought, okay, well, let me check if the settings are, malfunctioning somehow. So I set the phone to record. Then I went to do some cooking and whatnot for half an hour. I came back and that video was there. So this morning I tried to speak about what I'm going to be speaking about now, and the video wasn't recorded. So again, we can get very conspiratorial about this, people, but I don't think it's too conspiratorial. So let me explain why. They can listen to us through the phone. They can listen to us without the phone even being turned on. And if we are being surveilled, and if we are being listened to, if we are targeted individuals, then they can disappear anything that we are saying. They can cut our phones off, the conversations off mid-speech. They can disappear WhatsApp comments and things like that. And I don't know whether any of you have ever had that happen, but I have. So then all of a sudden you've got funny noises on the phone and all that sort of thing. So what I'm doing now is I'm recording it on the camcorder, which cannot be disappeared because it isn't connected to Wi-Fi. And so it looks like the days are over for me recording on the phone. And it's very, very curious, isn't it? So I've been replying to comments about my Trump assassination video, and the comments just disappear. And all I'm saying in the comments that we have to be very careful about what we believe these days, because most certainly we can't trust the state and we can't trust the mainstream media. So of course that was enough for IngSoc to disappear what I said. Now, for those of you that are not aware, IngSoc was the name of the propaganda company, the state, in George Orwell's 1984, and they were the ones that dished out all the propaganda and banned everything else. So that's the world we are heading towards, people. We are heading to a world whereby there is only one voice permissible, and everything else will be disappeared. But at this moment in time in the Western world, we are still fortunate enough not to be disappeared ourselves, because if anyone in North Korea or China or varying other countries around the world were saying things like this, then they actually would be disappeared, never to be seen again. And so at least only what we say has been disappeared at this moment in time. And so what I was speaking about is that how we could never ever depend on anything. We can never believe our own senses, and we can never believe anything anybody ever said, because even to get confirmation of these things is immensely difficult. For instance, if we look back at the whole biblical corpus, and we are we are encouraged to believe every line and verse in those books which were written all that time ago, without having any verification at all. We can't verify barely a single thing. And albeit historians will say that, oh well, this place could be verifiable or this event could be verifiable, i.e. the Pontius Pilate conversation with Jesus and all that sort of thing. But you know, they most likely faked originally. So all we're doing now is by trying to verify them is we're looking back to the fakeness which was created at that particular time. And so if anybody set out to create a conspiracy, then they would have all that stuff covered, wouldn't they? And so that's the great difficulty of things. And we know that text has changed, and all we need to do is just to look at our Bibles, and if they are written in English, well, they weren't originally written in English, were they? They were written in Aramaic, and they were written in Greek, and so they are clearly not a replication of what the original was. And how many changes have been implemented since the original scripts, who knows? But I think we could rest assured that there's a great deal that's been changed. And one of the changes that some of you may be aware of is the lion will lay down with the lamb, which most people would remember that being the case. But now it's the wolf will lay down with the lamb. And so this is one of those Mandela things that we all have to deal with these days. And so I'm speaking about when we look at what is actually happening on the media on all levels, is that there is a conglomerate of people's opinions, and there isn't a single opinion that we could verify or have any level of trust or belief or faith in. We shouldn't be trusting, believing or having faith in anything these days, because in recent times, more than any other times, it's been very apparent that we shouldn't, in actual fact, if we know what's good for us, be believing in anything anybody says. And so what do we do if we don't believe in anything? Where do we go from there? If we don't believe the state, that's one thing, because we know all politicians lie and states lie. They're all given to propaganda. That's all they are, propaganda machines, because they have a job to do, and that's to herd the masses. And so they are going to be telling the masses whatever they think, in their infinite wisdom, that the masses need to hear. Now, if we come down then to independent media, how do we trust those? Well, that's just independent people. They may not have any nefarious motive, but their gathering resources, ability may be subject to a lot of error, and they obviously are highly biased. Whenever they want to present something to you, the chances are they have a bias. And if somebody thinks they're independent but are a Trump supporter, then of course they're not independent, are they? If they are a liberalist, then they of course are not an independent thinker, and they're going to be thinking along liberal thought, and however that pollutes whatever they're going to be issuing. And so there's just a massive amount of pollution throughout for a whole array of reasons. And it's not even what other people are saying, it's how we perceive things. So we go from the state that we can't trust, we go from independent media we can't trust, we look at all the people around us, friends and associates, that we can't trust because we can't trust their integrity, we can't trust their perception, we can't trust the clarity of their minds, and then we come back to our own minds and we go, well, can we trust our own minds? And then when we go, well, if I look at what is looking at all these media, then I have a certain amount of information, I have a certain amount of knowledge, I have a certain capability of deciphering what I think is probable or true or this, that and the other. So everything that I am receiving is highly dependent on what's going on in here. My life experience, my level of intelligence, my expanse of consciousness, my biases, my pet hates, and my beliefs, and all these sort of things. So every single thing that I am collating is coloured by what is going on within me. And so all that most certainly couldn't be trusted. Because it's full of biases, isn't it? It isn't given as a clear representation or interpretation of what's out there. Now, when we look into Schopenhauer's representation, he said everything is will and representation. And so when we look at what representation is, everything that we perceive is a representation of something else that we've perceived, which of course was a representation of something else, and something else. And so everything is built on a fabrication. And so, therefore, we couldn't trust a single thing that was represented in our minds, because that's the whole thing. We represent things. We project back onto the world what we think we are seeing, or what we think we are remembering. And my mind goes, oh, that's kind of like this, and we project that back onto the world or into the forefront of our mind, and we go, yeah, that's what that was. But what was the veracity of that? What was the substance of it in our minds? Just an idea. And then we get into the Platonic ideas, where he said everything is ideas and forms. And so we have ideas in our minds, certain concepts, and we then relate a certain form to them, what we think they look like and what the representation is, you see. So everything is a representation of a form that we've created in our minds, that we think we've perceived in the world. So again, it's all highly non-dependable, because it all depends on the construct of our particular consciousness. And we know our consciousness is fallible, because our consciousness varies from everybody else's. And so when we're looking at the world and we're asking ourselves, well, where's this going? Well, it's most certainly leading into madness. It's most certainly leading down a very, very slippy path. And I think this is one of the reasons why the powers that be want only one answer to any question on Google. Because what benefit does it do anybody if there are 1,000? And albeit it is great to have varying opinions, because we need to make up our own minds, but if we are just making up our own minds based on other people's opinions, then the only premise of our minds being made up are very, very seated in our biases or our previous representations of whatever we think we know. So there's no knowledge which could be dependable in here. And so we're relying on somebody else's representations and hearsay. And so there's no point in actually watching or listening to anything. Ultimately, outside of entertainment, because we could never, ever, ever be sure that anything is absolutely true. Because first and foremost, there is no truth, because the human being isn't capable of deriving any truth. Because all of our consciousness are individuated bubbles. We have our own worlds. We are living actually in our own worlds, and we are not sharing our world with anybody else. We are sharing other people's ideas of their world. That's all we're doing. So we are just mixing with all other ideas. So when you have a whole conglomerate of 8.5 billion ideas, then where's the truth? There's no truth there. There can only ever be a fabrication of a general consensus of truth. That's all it's ever going to be. It's going to be a myriad of ideas, and let's say just there's more ideas in X party than there is in Y, so the majority is going to believe X, but the party Y doesn't believe X, and so they believe Y, and so we've got all this stuff going on. And So the only avenue of potential truth lies in our belief, whatever we want to believe. And that goes back then to the whole Bible thing. If we want to believe in a structure, if we want to believe in something that's real, even though we can't see it, we haven't experienced it, we believe in a fantasy of something being real, well, that's where we are now. We can only ever believe in a fantasy of something being real, because there's no way that we can prove that Jesus was crucified and he was impaled, any more than we can prove that Trump was shot. And so this is why, even 2,000 years ago, in the book of Thomas, or let's just say Thomas in the scripture, doubting Thomas, he had doubts about the resurrection, and it was Thomas's own beliefs, ideas and representations which told him that he couldn't possibly believe that unless he could put the finger inside the womb of Christ. And so I think that's where we are now. There's no difference, is there? I mean, that's where I am. I'm not going to believe anything. I'm not going to believe Trump got shot in his ear unless I can put my finger through the hole in his ear. And then I'll go, well, I mean, that, as far as my senses are concerned, is irrefutable. But I can't in good conscience convey to you that what I saw was absolutely true, because it was only true to me, and I don't know what's going on inside my mind. Maybe there's a million biases that clouded my vision and just you know, forced me, coerced me, beguiled me into being deceived. And so we know that we can't trust the human mind, people, because when we've got philosophers like René Descartes, circa 1600, who sat down and you know, decided that he's going to check to see if anything's real, to see if he can depend on any one of his senses, and he discovered, discerned, and wrote about, which is verifiable by scientists, that nothing, not a single one of our senses can be dependable, because we all have senses of varying degrees. We all see, hear, feel and intuit things very, very differently, don't we? And so if we see an accident over the road and there's 10 of us sitting here watching it, we're all going to see it marginally different. Some of us are going to see it very, very different. We ask why that is, because we're not in the same world. We're not experiencing the same thing. We're only experiencing our world. And so there is no world out there, so there is no truth out there. There's only a world in here, there's only a truth in here, and the world in here is a fabrication, and the truth in here is a fabrication. So where do we go with that, people? You know, it's very, very difficult, and when you look at it with any level of philosophical thought, you can only see that if you pursue this any further, then you would actually go insane. So the thing is to do is to stop with the pursuance of this Maya. Once you've discerned that it's Maya, stop looking for any truth. Just accept it as being Maya. Otherwise you will go insane. So, you know, just like the whole Jesus thing, nobody could ever know the veracity of Jesus or God or any of that stuff. We simply just could never know. The only thing that some people are convinced with is their own scholarship, where they have studied scriptures and history and this and the other, and they've compiled very loosely some stuff, and they think that's convincing enough for them. Well, that's just their belief, that's just their choice, that's all they've done, because if it was real, then everybody would know the reality of it, but because it isn't, it's just a fabrication, it's just an idea, it's just somebody else's ideas, it's just a conglomerate of ideas. That's all that's going on here, people. And so we are in a very, very difficult situation as thinking people. If you're not thinking people, then you continue in the Maya, you continue in the fiction, and that is probably the best place to be, in all due respect, because ignorance is bliss, as it would turn out, because you wouldn't have the mental turmoil of knowing that this is the biggest lie that anybody could ever experience. It's a lie upon a lie upon a lie upon a lie. And So the only thing we can do is just to go inside to that thing which is experiencing it and go, well, that thing is what I am. That's the only thing I can depend upon. And so everything else, let's just say it's a game of my own projection, or of something else higher than this. Who am I? What is me? So that thing seems to be doing all this thing, and so it appears to be creating some sort of an illusion for this to experience. So do we discount this? Do we absolutely discount this, or do we go with it and go, well, I mean, if it's illusion, if it's game, let's just play it. Let's just play it. And let's just not think too much about it. Let's not get too embroiled, because as soon as you go down these rabbit holes, people, it becomes a very, very curious place. And of course we end up in Wonderland, don't we? And so you know, one of the viewers said that you know, should I be trying to be the best possible version of myself? What do I think the best thing is to do? Is to watch YouTube or to read my book? And I'm like, well, look, only you can make those decisions yourself, and you'll make your own decisions based on the way you feel and your own experience, because you've got your own world, and whatever's best for you isn't best for anybody else. And so people cannot be advising, because all we're doing, if we advise, is just projecting. I mean, if I look back what I've done in my life, and if I give you advice, then all I'm giving you is a representation and a replication of what I've done. Who's to say that what I've done's right, or what I'm doing's right? There's no point in taking anybody's advice. So if we can't take anybody's advice, we can't trust anybody, where do we go, people? Where do we go? So that camera is still recording, just the same as this one is. And so it's going to be very interesting to see if that one disappears. And then I have this one, which cannot disappear until I put it online. But of course, when I put it online, then it can be disappeared. And so, but in this video, I've not been speaking that much about the whole Trump thing, because obviously that now has been, it's come into the same category as the whole COVID thing. It's come under the same level of jurisdiction and vetting as everything that pertained to that, which came from the state. The state doesn't want us to discount anything that it's saying, and if this is a state fabrication, then of course the state owned outlets like YouTube and Google are going to be disappearing, anything which is contrary to what they say. And so, I mean, you know, of course I am open-minded. I'm not conspiratorial. I'm conspiratorially inclined to look into things potentially that could be conspiracies. And it's just like being a thinking person. So if you're a thinking person, then you're a conspiracist, right? Well, that's just a label that they want to put on us to deter anybody from believing what we say or following us or anything like that. But if we are thinking people, then of course we're going to be thinking about everything. We're going to be looking objectively, and we're going to be going, well, I can't trust that, I can't trust this, I can't trust something else. The only thing I could trust is sticking my finger in the wound. Unless I can stick my finger through the hole in Trump's ear, then personally I have no adherence to what went on, because there's so many errors, there's so many areas for fabrication. And of course you've got a million cameras from all around saying this and saying that. Well, that's just like a million eyes looking at an accident. Our consciousness gets it all wrong. And Then when we've got people saying about this roof and that roof and the diagrams here and diagrams there and this is how that happened and everything like that, and then you see different videos and different angles and it's kind of, well, that can't work. That doesn't work with what I'm seeing here. And so it gets very exhausting. It gets tiring, and you know, I've made the decision to get outside of it. I watched a couple of videos, and you know, it's the same old, same old. I'm not getting involved in it, not getting drawn into the rabbit hole, because there is a life to be lived. And so what I'm doing, people, here, because the whole God thing is a mystery. Life is a mystery. Everything is a mystery. Nothing can ever be proven. And so what, you know, the answer keeps coming back is time and time and time and time again. And I say it to myself and to you all the time. We live in our own worlds. We have our own state of consciousness, and so whatever goes on within that world is our reality. And so why would we want to be polluting our reality from all external projections of other people's reality? Like all religions and all beliefs and all propaganda and all knowledge and all opinions and all this sort of thing. I'm even so tired of reading books these days, because it's just one person's opinion about a particular subject, and I can take that on board or I can leave it. Why would I want to take it on board? It's just one person's opinion written, you know, sometimes 2,000 years ago. And so what does that mean to me? And then I'll read another book and another book and another book and another book with all different varying opinions. And so if I don't have my own opinion on life, then I'm highly dependent on other people's opinions, and I'm very quickly going to be confused. I'm going to have so much information like I have now that none of it will coagulate together to give me anything firm and structured. Not a single bit of it is giving me anything firm and structured. I've had so many bizarre experiences which just tell me that this thing is absolutely bizarre. And so what I've decided to do, instead of doing this whole YouTube thing, because it just seems pointless to me, and I don't think I'm getting anything from it, and I'll put up my videos up and everyone will go, oh, I don't believe this, or I don't believe that, or some people say, yeah, I do believe that, or thanks for that. What does it mean to me? What does it matter when there are, you know, seemingly vastly more people that don't have an adherence to what I say than those that do, judging by the thumbs up, which is only really ever about 10%. So 90% can't be bothered, don't believe, or, you know, for whatever reason don't get involved and don't give me or the channel an acknowledgement of their, you know, co-allegiance. And so it's kind of like, well, I'm speaking without any purpose, really. What's the purpose? You know, what I'm saying is just philosophy. What's the purpose in philosophy? I'm speaking about my own subjective psychological experience of the world, and if you think that that's a bit similar or a bit interesting, then okay, but that's not your psychological experience of the world. I'm not speaking your philosophy, am I? We've all got to find our own paths, and so what I'm going to do is, because I'm not feeling very good at this moment in time about what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, because it's a dead end. And if I don't believe in things, and if I consider that all human beings are inherently evil and it's just a matter of time before they do evil, then I'm never going to get involved with human beings. You know, this whole thing about faith is really important. So that's when that phone just throws in the towel at how many minutes? It's not even giving me the minute count on this camcorder at this moment in time, which is curious in itself again. So yeah, if I don't believe in people's good intention, and that somewhere in the human being there is benevolence and kindness and honour and all these things, if I go, oh, it's only a matter of time before you lie, you steal, you deceive, or something like that, then I will end up just being completely and utterly in my own bubble. And so obviously that isn't healthy, is it? So at some stage I have to have the proverbial faith. I have to have faith, I believe, I hope that the human being is going to do the right thing. And to be quite frank, most on one level will do the right thing. It's only when they become heavily compromised that they will start to feel compromised and act in a compromised way. But we're not in a time of war, we're not in a time of shortage, we're not in a time when people should be fighting tooth and nail, we're not in a time of self-preservation, and so when people have plenty, then they tend to be a bit more open, a bit more honest, and a bit more giving, loving, and all those sort of things. And so I think I have to come back from the harsh reality of this dimension. The harsh reality is, of course, Maya, and there is nothing of substance, and there's nothing dependable, and there's no truth, and all these different sorts of things. So we ask ourselves, well, what the hell are we doing here then, if none of these things are a reality? If it's just a con, why are we being conned? And so therefore then, well, if we go into the belief that there is a world here and people are, you know, intrinsically good, and we can con ourselves into that, we can put ourselves under hypnosis, and we can go out there and we can live that sort of life. I think that's the best life to live, to be fair, people. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm concentrating on my music because I very much enjoy doing that. I'm concentrating heavily on learning to sing better. I'll continue to concentrate on my health, and I will stop listening to things online like, you know, Russell Brand and all those sort of pundits that are just presenting to us, this is what they're doing now, oh, they're failing to do this now, or you can see what they're trying to manipulate us now, and all this sort of thing. Where does that get us? Where does that get us? It just gets us in a bad state, doesn't it? It gets us in the bad way. And so whatever they're doing, well, they're going to do it whether we know about it or not. And if you think, yeah, well, I've just got to know about it, well, ask yourself the question, is that healthy? Because we can know about all the potential, we can know about all the conspiracy, we can know about all the angles where Kennedy was shot and all the motives, and yet we'll still know nothing. In the end, we will just wasted our lives, we would be making ourselves feel pretty negative about the world and all the rest of it. And so maybe it's time just to leave the whole YouTube rabbit hole and to go and do something else. I've been down it for 14 years, people, and you will know, those of you that have been watching me for a long time, you will have seen a certain decline, you will have seen a certain bitterness, a certain negation, that's being projected, being displayed, because I'm falling victim to all this negative energy. So I remember a time only a year ago when I wasn't privy to all this negative energy. I was highly concentrated in my own meditation, in reading exactly what I thought was healthy, and I was engaging with people in a much more healthy way. In a kind of superficial way, because as soon as you get into the depths of human psychology, that's when the shit hits the fan, because that's when you get, I don't believe this, I don't believe that, and then you get the anger. And how many times did I experience anger when I did tentatively delve into someone's psychology? It isn't healthy to delve into other people's psychology, because most times you wouldn't want to see what you are presented with. And so it is best just dealing with everybody on a superficial level and not psychoanalyzing people and not getting too close to people, just superficial, mingling until you feel as if you could really trust the person. And then, okay, maybe you take someone close to you, but I feel it's only a matter of time before that trust wanes and all of a sudden, you know, that goes pear-shaped and it ends up very bitter also. And so I remember a time when I was looking at the world and it was a beautiful place, and I want to get back to that. I haven't been involved in too many nature walks. I haven't been doing any foraging. I've been making a lot of videos. I've been watching a lot of videos. I've been reading a lot of stuff that I just don't need to know about. And so in this past few months I've started many books and I just can't get through them because there's no point in me acquiring that knowledge. There was a time when I just was like a sponge and I wanted to absorb all the knowledge, so I had a bank of knowledge and I could form opinions and this, that and the other. But now I realise the opinions aren't worth anything. It's just my opinion, and whatever I manage to coagulate, that is highly premised. It is only as a result to the things that I have been absorbing. So I can only form certain opinions on certain things that I've absorbed. And if I've been reading Julius Evola, if I've been reading Jordan Peterson, if I've been reading Dostoevsky or Paramahansa Yogananda or any of these things, then I'm going to have all those people's thoughts in my mind. What are they to me? Interesting sometimes. What do they mean to me? Nothing. What really means to me, what I really feel and know subjectively without having this thing polluted by the external. So there's a lot to be said for these gurus and these monks and nuns that go into reclusion and keep the amount of information down to an absolute bare minimum. And so this is why Christians, they are persuaded, heavily persuaded, not to read anything else about the spiritual realm or religious realm, only read those 66 books. And if they did that, then they would only have that information entering into their psyche. And so therefore they wouldn't be conflicted about all the other stuff out there, because being conflicted isn't going to get you into the kingdom of God, people. I absolutely know that for sure. When you have a conflicted mind, you will never get into the kingdom of God. When you have the mind of a child, you are already in the kingdom of God. That's why Jesus said, truly I say unto you, unless you become like children, you will not enter the kingdom of God. The mind of a child is open and it's free and it's non-judgmental and it's non-polluted. That is the beauty of the kingdom of God. And so what do we have to do in Buddhist terms? We have to come back, peel away all the layers of the onion, to come back to what? To come back to the nothingness of what we are. To come back to the pure void of the core of our essence. And there lies peace, because it's not been polluted by anything. And there's no desires, there's no will, there's no belief systems, there's no projections. There is just a core center. And then when you are centered and you walk around the natural world, then you're open to all the beauty, because there's nothing telling you that shit, that's nasty, that's fake, and this and the other. You look with your eyes, you feel with your heart, you smell with your nose, and you listen with your ears. And that has to be our truth, people, at the end of the day. That is the only truth that we would remotely be able to depend upon. And it probably is the healthiest truth. And so what am I saying now? I'm saying that there's no point in watching my videos anymore, because I don't have any truth. I don't have anything dependable. I only have videos laced with insecurity and ambiguity, and I say all through them that there's no truth and don't believe me. So people say to me, well, why are you saying this stuff then? And I'm like, well, it's just so people realise that there's no truth and there's nothing of any value in what anybody really says on a ideological, philosophical, spiritual, matrixial, political arena. They're all just suggestions, and if people want to take a certain suggestion here and there, if they think it works for them, then that's the answer. And this is why lots of people, when they're speaking spiritually, philosophically, they'll say, look, you take from this video what you feel is useful. Everything else, just leave. You don't need to get in a tizzy about it. You don't need to start saying all the things you don't believe in, all these projections. Listen to it if you want to, and if you take something from it which is of benefit to you, then that's a good thing. And all the rest of it, you just let it go. And so I don't know whether I've been of any use to you people. You will know that, and maybe you'll like to state in the comments, because I'm at the point whereby I'm going to be taking down all of my videos, and I will leave the channel open this time, but I will leave an introductory video and maybe a handful of other videos which I think are helpful. But most of the videos I will take down. All the videos where I've been speaking about my opinions in relation to Christianity, anything that could be deemed to be highly controversial, because what's the point of it? It just causes more division, more of a schism. People get agitated by it, and so I've said what I said when the energy was working through me, and that obviously worked for me or the higher self which wanted to convey it. That stuff doesn't need to be in the world anymore. So I'm going to take those videos down, and maybe I won't make any more videos, or maybe I'll change my trajectory. But one thing's for sure, I'm going to step away from all of this stuff. I'm starting to listen to different stuff and watch different stuff, and maybe even start to venture out into the big wide world, because I don't know. Of course, it is not healthy if I'm going to be at this level of reclusion for the rest of my life. What would that serve me? So maybe my music one day will be a portal to get me out when I feel more confident and more proficient in what I've learned. Then maybe join a little band, or go and do some busking, or just do some interacting like that. Maybe make some videos just for music, people. But for sure, I have to change, and I've done it. I've done it. I've been down the rabbit holes, people. I've been to hell and back, you know, in a certain respect. You know, I've had encounters with, you know, major spiritual entities and all that sort of stuff, and now it's just come to the what of it? What of it? You know, I've been listening online to a myriad of people speaking about near-death experiences with encounters of spirits and Jesus and gods, and what of it? What of it? What of it, people? I don't know what of it. And so what do? We're chasing our tails all the time, looking for confirmation bias, looking for who said about this. Or this person said he met God in this instant. This person said he met God in that instant. He said that God felt like this and God felt that, and God was Jesus, and then God wasn't Jesus. And too much information, people. That's the thing today. There's too much information. And this is why, in the infinite wisdom, I think there could be some level of benevolence behind the powers that be when they just want to close everybody down, because they realise that it isn't healthy. It isn't healthy. You know, Alex Jones and David Icke and all the rest of them pointing out the deep intricacies of the deception which the state are bringing about. Yes, they are doing all these things, and we'll never know truly what their motive is. Maybe their motive is really a higher level of benevolence which we just can't comprehend at this level, or maybe it can be absolutely evil, and you know, all that's happening here on this planet is that our energy is just being siphoned off, and the loosh is just gobbled up by evil demons. Will we ever know? Will we ever know? But one thing's for sure, if we're highly concentrated on those things, then whichever we're highly concentrated on is going to become more and more of our reality. Do we want to go down those rabbit holes? Do we want to enter into those worlds? Or do we just want to come back and create our own fiction, our own pleasantries, and concentrate on the things that, you know, potentially make us feel good and give us respite from the crazy world out there? Anyway, I've been thinking about, you know, taking the channel down, taking the videos down, leaving them up there, all this sort of thing. Maybe you guys here, this is kind of like at the end. This could be the end, people. So for those of you that have got to the end of this video and you feel as if you have a comment in you and that it's now or never, because premised on the amount of comments and the context of the comments that I get is going to weigh heavily on what I do. If there are, let's say, if there are 100 comments and it's all like, no, keep your videos there, concentrate on this, steer clear from that, I like this, I'm not too keen on that. If I can get some sort of general consensus from my viewers, then maybe I will change the structure of the channel and I'll go somewhere else and, you know, change the format and, you know, have a revamp of what's going on here. But if, as normal, I can't get any level of coherence out of you, I'm done here, people, because obviously there's nothing going on, is there? If you don't want to convey what you want from me, then there's no point in me being here, because I'm just in a fantasy that somebody wants me to do this. A fantasy of the cosmos wanting me to do it. And I'm like, well, why, cosmos, do you want me to do this when the people don't seem bothered about me doing it? How does that work? So, you know, if you've got anything to say, if you want to express yourselves, then now's the time, people, and let's see what manifests.